business growth session. So, focusing on the strategies to thrive in today's dynamic business environment. Let's welcome.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be able to speak to you. And I'm basically a trainer trying to train various trainers on English language development. And we're also building a program on how to use the Bible to teach English or learn English. So that's an amazing thing, because if you use King James Version, KJV, there's a lot of English out there. So that's a great opportunity for us. So there are various ways to do it. So while this presentation is being set up, I was thinking about the Jews. The Jews, what's the population of Jews in the world? 8 billion people, huh? 1%, 15.3 million across the world. About 40% live in US. And that is just about 0.2% of the world population. But imagine, you would know the kind of influence they have on the economy that the world operates in. What percentage of Nobel laureates have come out of the Jewish community? Any guesses? Yeah, very close. 27% of the Nobel laureates have come from the Jewish community. So what could be some of the good practices? If you Google and check, I found one of the good practices they have done is they've never lost the focus on education. Always learning, starting from their basics, starting from their home, starting from parents educating their children. Second is they've never forgotten their customs and practices. They've always been very close in focusing on their customs. We also have our customs and practices, some based on the biblical principles, some based on certain traditions, which our forefathers have been doing, but we also feel that it's good to understand the traditions and decide what we should follow and what we should change. And the third that we saw in this Jewish community was they're always very closed. Like the Marwadis, there are many communities who share. They're all workers together. They share amongst each other. And not only share, but they mentor. And so there'll be a lot of Jewish family communities that you will see, where the fathers, as Brother George was talking about the TVS community, how many generations keep training each other? I'm sure all of us are also doing that. But we also need to recognize that. Okay, so from a business growth point of view, next one. Next. Next one. Yeah, so this is one verse that has always been very special for me. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 3. Can someone read it, if you can see? And the word that I want to just leave with you as we close, I'm standing between you and lunch, is the word all. All your heart. Acknowledge him in all your ways, every time. And that is what, when Thomas was talking about David, the warrior, he was always focusing on God. And there were times where he did not, and he lost the battle. So he was always focusing on, so he was a worshipper first and then a warrior. So if we are also worshippers, human beings are designed as worshippers. If we are worshipping, then we will have that context in our heart when we are doing business. And so that takes me to the next slide, which I picked up from George's presentation. And that was pursuing excellence based on biblical principles. Not having excellence is not an option. In whatever we do, excellence is required. It could be based on certain natural abilities, or it could be based on certain passion that we have. When we go for career counseling, like Daniel, I'm also a career counsel, and I found that there are a lot. Yeah, Daniel is here. So we all have certain natural abilities, which is as unique as our thumbprint. And through certain career courses, it says the possibility of a person having similar traits is 1 in 33,000. If you look at a comparison of strengths, I'm a Gallup strength coach. So there are various strengths that we have. So you can see that. That's the kind of unique abilities we are all. So a fish cannot climb a tree. A monkey cannot go into the water. So every person is so unique. So that means in our businesses also, it's always good to step back and say, what am I naturally designed for? Or it could be a passion. I know about Jonathan, who's doing his third year MBBS in CMC Ludhiana. He was in our church. And as a young boy studying in Pathway School, Noida, he always wanted to do business. Business, uncle. In class 11, he suddenly moved very swiftly into biology. Jonathan, what happened? And then his parents told me that one of his aunties passed away. My auntie passed away because of cancer. And that was a big shock for him. And that changed his life orientation, where he decided that he would move away from his business into immunology and cancer stem research. And so that completely changed his outlook. So many times that also can happen. But today he's doing his third year, and I keep meeting him in Ludhiana when I travel around. He's so passionate about his studies because he's there with a mission. Whenever he feels low, he remembers his auntie, and he can think about many people who need that kind of a service. So sometimes passion can drive us if it is not natural ability. Next one. Okay, so if you have a long session, this is what I would have done. Foundation of faith in business. All your heart is what I wanted to talk about. Biblical perspective, we've talked about values, integrity we've done. So I'll just go to the next slide. Strategies for business growth. You would see market. What are the words that you see in red? So this is all we've been hearing. Okay, so I'm not going to drain this slide. Next one. Challenges with faith. So perseverance is very, very important. Overcomer like Joseph in all our situations. I just want to focus on the third one, which is the balance. And that was the question I was asking Brother George also. With so much of experience, 50 years he's got. 50 years of experience. I was wanting him to share good practices out of on this fact. How can you balance our focus on God, that is our faith, intimacy with the Lord, and second is our family and business. What are some good practices? So if I have to just add the number of years of experience, what I'd like you to do, take a minute and add the number of years of experience on your table. Number of years of experience on your table. Can you give me a number? Quickly, each table. Add the number of years of experience. For example, John, how many years? Counting. So many years. 38, Daniel? 13. 38 and 13 is 48, 50, 52. 52 plus 30 something. So let's make it 30. So 82. So 82 years of experience here. Okay, why don't you quickly do that? Now I modeled it for you. Okay, add the number of years of experience on your table. Add, all total. Okay. 82 plus 105. Somebody help me in mathematics. 187? Okay, Daniel help me. Plus 53. 240 plus 105 plus 345. Okay, how many years? 72. 417, yes. Plus 77. 494 plus 70. 564 plus 609 years of experience in this room. Can you beat it? Okay. It's about 35 years for me. 30 years in the corporate and then 5 years in doing. See, amazing, isn't it? So many years of experience we have in this room. And that is what Fishers, thanks to the founders, have brought it together. And that is the kind of opportunity we can leverage in, not only at a global level, but also at a national level, so many places, and also at a regional level, at a city level. That is what God has planned. This is the Lord's doing. And isn't it marvelous in our eyes? Definitely. If that is so, I want to keep that in mind as we look at the balance. Balancing. See, many times, if there is only a ministry, it is not a difficult thing to balance. There is no boss. God is our boss, and accountability is to the church. If it is only business, it is okay. But if we have a God focus, if you have a family focus, and if you also have a business to run, and the boss always is on the head, and assume the boss is always a workaholic, I had a lot of challenge balancing this. My first year, 10 years, I was in manufacturing, doing multiple roles from project management to maintenance to many things. Next 10 years, I was in telecom. I was the commercial head for Airtel in the north, set up the Airtel function. I was in Tata, again in Indicom, set up the Delhi circle for telecom. And then I was working in a global role in Nortel. So I was in Asia Pacific head. I'm not talking about me. I'm saying I've been struggling, and even today, I'm still struggling, wanting to have that right balance. It is not easy. So, one of the things that Brother George said is it starts early. Start from the early morning. One of my mentors used to say the first face that you should see in the morning is the face of your master. The first voice that you should hear is the voice of your master. Even if the wife is lying beside you, the children are there, listen to that voice. If we can do that, nothing like it. Start with God, make God big in our life. That is my learning. And so, what I'm trying to do this year, starting from last December, is my wife and encouraging my wife and I to get up in the morning. I get up at 5, I wake her up at 5:30. She is a night person. Somehow she gets up and we have our prayer. And one of the things I'm doing is at least also sing. Pick up some Malayalam songs which we are not familiar with. Use the English text because I've heard my parents sing. And so sing that loudly so that even the wall should hear that song. What happens is the song goes on in the mind. And then read the scripture, pray, and then my wife will go to sleep and I can go on with my routine. Start with God. Second is the family. There are so many examples of people who are great businessmen, great preachers. But what about their backyard? You will see some problems. Sometimes there'll be one black sheep or there'll be many. What is more important when we stand up and stand in front of the master, and the master will take account of what we are doing? What is more important, the business or the family? How many of you feel the family is more important? It is not easy because there will be priorities. I remember my father was a pastor, so we would go from Delhi to Chandigarh and we will meet him on a Saturday evening with everything and we want to go. He would get ready and he will go. And I'll say, what? Where are you going, Daddy? He will say, I have my father's business to do. There will be a meeting in a home, the church meeting. He would be very sure he will go for that meeting. For him, Monday was family day. Rest of the days was ministry days. So he had that plan. So we would always look for Monday to see our father, always available for whatever we needed. Now, I'm saying there are different ways to balance. But it's always important for us to be deliberate and intentional about this balance. What I'm saying is, please don't lose your family. Focus on the family when you're focusing on the business. Business is definitely most important, right? That's why we're in the marketplace. But the George said, the best thing for a Christian is to be in the marketplace. And that is where we can live our own values, the fruits of the Spirit. Okay, so family, faith, business, our priorities should be very clear. It has to start with that still small voice. And it's going to be a struggle. Always hear the master, know the word, listen to the word, hear the word. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one God. Hear means Shema, that means hear, listen, and obey. There's no other word for obey in Hebrew. Shema means listen and obey. We don't have a choice. We have to do it. But if we can do that, God will put His plan in place. But that doesn't mean we should not do our work. We have to be excellent. So that takes me to the last point, which is part 4. And that is basically when we define a mission, I change it slightly. Not only be clear about a mission, but deliver excellence in what we do. Delivering excellence in what we do. And that excellence is not based on what I do, but as sister was talking about the photography, they have various clients and it is the experience that they create that makes the difference. And they're constantly learning out of it. Okay, that's about the mission. The second one is SIT. You're all sitting. Okay, so I have a definition for SIT. S stands for specialization. I stands for industry. And T is technology. A specialization is very important. Their sister specialized, the Earnest Media specialized in photography, videography. You can make a bigger. We'll have different specializations. But then when they talk about wedding planning, versus another corporate event planning, the industry becomes different, isn't it? So you also have to know the industry. Otherwise, you can't know the customer. So it's very important to not only be specialist in our own field, which means each one of us have to be hands-on in what we do. That is specialization, as we teach others and then delegate and then take ourselves off, become process dependent, moving from person dependent. We can also focus on industry. My last assignment was as a vice president in Accenture, and we used to do a lot of focus on specialization. I was the person who set up Google, customer care for Google Pay in India. It was called Pays earlier on, 4,000 people. And the day, it was a moment of truth that day when I decided to quit. And that was, we had 4,000 people. Google said, can you run automation? So we brought in tech masters. We're talking about technology, the third part. Brought in tech masters. I did a complete study on what we can automate. Realized that we could automate 80% of that work. That means if 80% of that 4,000 people go, how will we manage with 20%? And if a person at my level has to manage 4,000 people, that also showed that if the numbers will go down, my job would also go away. Which means either I'll have to quit or pick up a new project. That day I decided this is not the place for me because the pace is so fast and the focus on revenue and the client was so fast that I felt that it's time for me to move away from the focus on revenue to the focus on people. That was a moment of truth. 6 months down the line, that numbers came down. So this is the reality with IoT and with artificial intelligence, chat GPT coming in. There are people who come in front of my office and they first look at Google Maps review and then they go to chat GPT and check everything. So this generation, current generation, has all the information on their tips. What to do with that information is what the challenge is. And that is where we can model. But we ourselves, as we go into business, should always remember the SIT. Now, if sister has to do weddings, I did my son's wedding last month. The first thing that would ask photographers is, have you done a Christian wedding? If they've done Hindu weddings, they will charge 30,000 rupees, but they won't know the typical points. Have you done a Christian wedding? Okay, what are the critical points in a Christian wedding? Oh, we did a so-and-so wedding, we had flowers and all that. I realize they don't know the nuances of this industry. So within a vertical, also there would be multiple verticals, which means we should understand the industry. That is why the importance of specialization, industry and technology. Again, technology will change. We also need to be clear about technology. The last one is about accountability and fellowship. That is what Fishers, I believe, brings. When we work together, there is a mutual accountability. Many times when we work as businessmen alone, I'm only my boss. I don't need to ask nobody needs to ask what time I get up, what time I sleep. I can do whatever I want. No. When we work as a team, then there is more mutual accountability and there is also fellowship. We are all fellows in a ship. Like that songwriter, we have only one life, which will soon be past. Another 40, 50 years from now, how many of us will be alive if everything goes well? Very short life. Acts 17:25 says, God has decided the extent of our habitation and our time. Where we are going to stay, what we are going to do, and the end of our time is already decided. Assuming I'm using godly wisdom. If I jump in front of a bus, I'm over. But that doesn't mean that I'm going against God's plan. God has a plan. So my life is not mine. My life belongs to the master when we committed our life. So let the master use it, but let's focus on getting into the network and leveraging the network the way Jews have shown us, many other communities have shown us, so that we can leverage this network not only for excellence, but also for accountability and fellowship. There could be a time where we have nothing to say. Maybe we could just meet for a time of prayer. We might meet on the road, stop our vehicle, come to a site, spend 5 minutes in prayer. Brother, something is on my mind. Can you just pray for me? That is all. But you know there is someone you can reach out to beyond the immediate circle of a family and friend. Okay, so keep this in mind. The next slide is basically closing. Yeah, next one. Okay, so basically the Ecclesiastes chapter C says, two are better than one. And a threefold cord can not easily be broken. Okay, it is there. Chapter 4, the last verse. So as Fishers has brought us together, I am not alone. I am so privileged to be part of this August gathering. So many opportunities, starting from home automation to photography to legal support, network, IT, training, insurance. If we need, there are people already. Let's bring them to this network so that we can work as a global family. We are all, as some of you said, joined by faith, authentic relationships. Let's keep it authentic because there is a God who sees and a God who knows and a God who cares. We have a common Father. So why don't we recognize that two are better than one, and there is a third person who is the invisible host and the unseen guest at every meal, at every conversation. So let's keep that in mind and make sure that together we are able to serve with a mission and serve with a purpose. I'm sure all the previous programs would have really enriched us. If we had time, probably we could have noted, but it will be a good time for us to reflect and note down so that we can have this takeaways that we are taking and implement it for God's glory and for our encouragement. Thank you very much.